but this is Youthology Live Sunday nights. So 12 minutes of learning, and what we're doing tonight is we're looking at 5 dangerous questions. Okay, 5 dangerous questions. And these questions come out of some research and study that I've done on analytics. If you're into sports at all, analytics is the new thing, right? Practice teams are putting out practice analytics to see if scholarship athletes at the D1 level are producing in practice and not just in a game, right? I mean, we all watch the film from the game, right? But what really makes us better is practice. You know, practice. Practice? We're talking about practice. Yeah, practice. So anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about analytics, how to analyze myself as the leader, as the youth leader, okay? I'm going to ask you 5 questions and I want you to go to the blog this week and you'll be able to read more on it. There's going to be a lot more written. I can only cover about a minute or 2 on each one and we're finished. So actually the more I talk now, you know, I can't cover that much. So, but check out YouTube and then check out the blog, and I'll have more at youthology.com on this topic, okay? So the free resource, I guess, kind of. Maybe some of you have heard of this. Bono on the Move, okay? This was the speech that he gave at the National Prayer Breakfast a few years ago, and it is revolutionary. And he deals with some dangerous questions to America, really to government, education, the private sector. And you gotta read this. I'm telling you, I've read this probably 8 or 10 times. So you can go out and get it. You can get it at W Publishing Group, the campaign, the One campaign, which is the Bono's campaign. You can get it there too. Bono on the Move. Got that? Okay, so tonight, 5 dangerous questions for youth leaders. Number 1, when is the last time you cried for a teenager? I want to get at you tonight a little bit, okay? I want to deal with maybe some professionalism and complacency has kind of fallen in place in your life. I want to ask you a question. When is the last time you cried for a teenager? I don't mean cried because of a teenager, right? We all cry because of teenagers. But I'm talking about empathy, okay? Empathy and compassion. I mean, think about it. Has your week gone by, has a month gone by in your youth ministry and you haven't cried over your teenagers? You spend no time over their soul and their condition and what they're going through, right? So I really want to challenge you, when you look at your own self-leadership, it really begins with your love for teenagers. One of the things that I did with all of our youth leaders as they were coming on, and I'm going to talk about leadership last, but as our youth leaders were coming on, I asked them all the time in interviews, I would say, do you love teenagers? Not do you love me, or do you love being involved in the church, but do you love teenagers? Because if you don't, this is a long ride, right? So question number 1, do you love teenagers? When is the last time you cried for a teenager? You know what helps? And I'm going to get into this more in the blog, but talk to them. Sit down and listen to them. Speak with them, right? Get out of the office. Go spend some time at the school, right? And if you work and you're a volunteer, you have to do the same thing. We've talked about that a few weeks ago on how to, how to get better as a volunteer and getting in the lives of students and how to access them in a relationship basis when I've got a job and a family, okay? All right, question number 2. So number 1 was, when's the last time you cried for a teenager? Question number 2, do you avoid talking about numbers? Attendance. Listen, one thing I've learned is that usually people who talk about numbers and attendance are the people who are growing, right? And the people who don't want to talk about it are the people who maybe have small youth ministries or whatever. Listen, we got to get away from that. We count people because people count. Listen, there's this false humility sometimes. It's like a default with ministers, and they say things like, well, it's not about the numbers, and Listen, it is about the numbers. And I want to just blow that out of the water. You know why it's about the numbers? Tommy Barnett said it years and years ago. I heard him say this in a minister's meeting. We count people because people count. Let me tell you why it's about the numbers. Because every person is a number. Every number is a person. Think about that. I don't want us to have this false description of how many come to our youth group because we don't even know. And if you don't know, that's why you're not talking about numbers. Listen, the amount, it's not the amount of people that are coming, okay? It's the people that are coming, okay? It's not the quantity of students that are coming, all right? It's the students who are coming. So I want to, here's something I'm going to blog, in the blog I'm going to cover this more, but I want you to look at your roster. Because your roster is your youth group, not your attendance. Oftentimes we say things like, well, you know, we had 30 there Wednesday night. Listen, you have more than 30 in your youth ministry. You know that. You have more than 30 in your youth ministry. You might have, if you have 30 coming on a Wednesday night, you might have 90 on the roster. 90 kids that come in a month or 90 kids that come in a quarter, right? That's your youth ministry. So stop saying things like, well, you know, we run around 30. No. If you have 90 on your roster, you run 90. And until you go after those students, they're not going to come back anyway, right? So we'll get into that more too. But anyway, so question number 1, when is the last time you cried for teenagers? Question number 2, are you afraid of talking about numbers, right? And then question number 3, what is your response when presented with an opportunity to leave youth ministry? I want to talk about longevity. And many of you have heard me talk about this. This is something I'm very strong. This is my 34th year in youth ministry. At 55 years old, you're not supposed to still be doing this. But there are many of us across the country, who veterans or whatever, who are still doing this 30 years down the road, okay? And I'm just telling you, if you're a rookie or you're 5 years or you're 10 years, God isn't changing his mind on the call on your life. As a matter of fact, I hear people say often, and I've spoken to them, and if you're watching this, I'm not trying to rat on you, but you know, we've had this discussion with several youth leaders this year. I've had this discussion. I've found that most of the time when youth leaders leave youth ministry, God hasn't called them. Some he has. I'm not God, I'm not the Holy Spirit in your life. But hear me. Many of the youth leaders who leave youth ministry haven't been called to leave youth ministry. They leave youth ministry because they're frustrated. They leave youth ministry because they found another position that'll pay them more or whatever. They leave youth ministry because they didn't solve problems. And hear me, all of ministry is about solving problems. I don't care where you go. You can go to the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, inner city, urban center, suburban center, wherever you go, you got to solve problems in ministry. Because if you don't solve problems, you're moving on. And it may not be God calling you. Okay? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. Longevity in youth ministry. It gets better. Youth ministry gets better at this age. Dudes, I have 9 camps this summer. It probably wears you out thinking about it, right? I have 9 camps this summer. Why? I think there's a level of commitment in relationship that some people trust to have you in to do a camp because you know you love their kids. And you're going to treat them well and you're going to lead them well in that altar setting, and right? So I just want to get back to you on this longevity thing. Listen, God isn't changing his mind. God called me when I was at Evangel College years and years ago, okay, to youth ministry. And this is what I told him. If you change your mind, you let me know, but I'm all in. And I talk to God every day, and he hasn't told me to do anything else. So I think he still wants me to do this, right? Stay with it, longevity, right? What is the appeal? You know, a friend of mine said this weekend, I'm thinking about this weekend, all right? He said, I'm thinking about a move and becoming a lead pastor and all that. And I said, why do you want to take a demotion? Right? So I'm pushing this. Listen to God, but I'm pushing this. Longevity is where it's at, okay? All right, finally, question number 5, because we're at like 11 minutes already. Question number 5, are we producing fans or disciples? Fans or disciples? Because I think most youth groups are creating fans who show up and we count them for attendance, and we have a game, and we have a blast, right? What about disciples? You measure a fan by attendance. You measure disciples by the knowledge of the word. Are they witnessing to their friends? Are they bringing their friends to youth ministry? Are they involved, not just attending? Because there's a difference between attending and being involved, right? So are we producing fans in youth ministry because we don't challenge them and all we want is them to come in and eat the popcorn and watch the game, right? Or are we producing disciples? So again, man, I know I'm hurrying, but I'm trying to keep to your 12 minutes. All of these questions, you can find them on the blog, okay? Question number 1, when's the last time you cried for teenagers? Questions number 2, do you avoid asking the numbers question and talking about numbers? Question number 3, longevity. What is your response when offered another position or whatever? Question number 4, are we producing fans versus disciples, right? Fans versus disciples. And then that final question, question number 5, is are quality youth leaders leaving the team? Are quality youth leaders leaving the team? Recruiting is one thing, retention is another. Many of us can recruit leaders. We get these leaders around us, we give them responsibilities, right? But what about retaining leaders? Retaining leaders is as important as recruiting the leaders. It may be more important. And so leadership development is so important. And I'm breaking down in the blog how to do a leadership meeting. I hear that question all the time. Man, I don't even know what to do. Should I just do wins and calendar and eat with them and pray at the end? I'm gonna break down a really good, healthy youth leadership meeting because at least 10 to 15 minutes of that meeting needs to be in leadership development, okay? So thank you for joining. Again, you gotta get this, okay? On the Move by Bono. It'll grip you, it'll ask you deep questions about your commitment to Christianity in the world today. Okay, so get that, Bono on the Move. Again, YouTube, check it out. I'll post-produce this, put some music in it, throw some stuff up there, you know, like maybe over here and stuff, and then you can check it out. Again, thanks for joining. It is an honor that you would take however much time you take to peek in on this, to go and watch it later, and listen to these kind of things, okay? This is an honor. Thank you. Make it a great week. I'm gonna have a blast this week. God bless you. See ya.